We can cater for all your on-screen talent needs. You can contact us through our website, www.simzisanecreations.com. We hope to be hearing from you soon.
Pause there. Now, if you look very carefully in this film, my dancers didn't show up on the day. I had 6 girls who were supposed to dance, only 2 showed up. So I'm the 3rd dancer at the end. So I dressed in my corporate wear, filmed the one piece, changed into the dance, and put this all together, presented Peter Jackson's office, and I got the contract to supply all the ethnic extras that took part in King Kong and Avatar. And now, this was a vision that I had, to go back into storytelling using digital media. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just had that desire, that little seed inside me that said, do it. It also helped the women from my community to see how their uniqueness is needed in this part of the world. I started training women to go into the corporate world, to talk about their stories so people can relate to us as people. What I found in the white world is you don't understand us. You don't take time to get to know us. Can I ask if any of you has ever sat down and had a meal with an African person? This room is beautifully unique in that sense. That was awesome. But a lot of times when I ask this question, very few hands go up. You get to know other people by breaking bread with them. And I'm really excited that my sisters are here so that you can see me in action, see things that I can. So you have to be an example of possibility. And possibility only comes into being when you believe it. And what I have always done is I have grounded myself in a peaceful place where I know that what I am creating will come to be. That's why I started my first slide with peace begins with me. It's in those still moments of meditation and prayer that we create. It's in those moments where you say it out loud. I started saying that I am the first African person to write, direct, and produce an Oscar award-winning screenplay. I've been working on a movie script that is based on my life. Before I knew it, somebody gave my very first book to Peter Jackson's wife, the woman who won all the Oscars for Lord of the Rings. And she has been my mentor for the last 5 years. When she read the first script, she said, Gertrude, it's too big a story to do as one film. Break it up into 3 separate movies. So I'm now working on 3 movie scripts. We'll start in the middle, and it's from when I left Africa until now, 21 years later. The second film is my childhood story, my backstory, and the third one is futuristic. It's a prophecy of Africa 100 years from now. So the movie is called The Ubuntu Prophecies. I had a dream when I started writing the first script and when I wrote this book. In fact, when you get a copy, you have to read the last chapter first. The dream was of my funeral. The last chapter, I woke up in a dream. And in this dream, I was being buried. And as they are lowering my body into the ground, somebody was reading my eulogy and saying everything I was going to achieve in this lifetime. The thing about the dream is I could taste, I could touch, I could feel. I've only had 2 or 3 of those kind of dreams before in my life, and they have come true. So I wrote it down as the last chapter of my first book. Confuses people when they get to the end, they're like, is she dead? Is she alive? No, it was a prophecy. I dedicated the proceeds of this book to educate the children in my village. I self-published this book, and in the last 21 years, I have educated well over 5,000 children from my community. I took over a primary school in my village, where my ex-husband went to school. And to put the AIDS pandemic into context, my grandmother had 11 children. She had 34 grandchildren. 19 of my first cousins died of AIDS, and I'm including my youngest brother. When I moved to New Zealand, there were 49 orphaned kids on my side of the family alone, another 40 on my ex-husband's side. So I was just trying to find a way to make extra money. So I wrote this book, and I started giving free presentations and talks, and my aim was to sell 100 copies a month, and I would hit that target for 5 years running. People started passing my name to events planners, and it turned into a 21-year career as a corporate speaker for conferences. I have been to 56 countries. I can't tell you how many towns, cities, villages in between. And it's just because of this story. Now, my sisters, you need to honor everything you have gone through, the journey that brought you here. And we need to go back home to our communities and help. My grandmother used to say that for a tree to survive, it has to scatter its seed as far away from it as possible. We are Africa's seeds. We have been dispersed through slavery, through wars. I'm an economic refugee. I couldn't even get a job in Zimbabwe when I was there. So we need to go home and make a difference. My journey was going well until 2017. I was in Bali, Indonesia on holiday. I'd gone through a very traumatic separation and divorce. 27 years of marriage gone. 31-year relationship gone. My kids had grown up. I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't a mother. I didn't have kids who needed me that much. I wasn't a wife. So I packed my suitcase and I traveled for 2 years. Just lost. I went to 14 countries. This picture was taken in Indonesia. I had just turned 50. And my daughter said to me, "Mom, you have been going non-stop since the divorce. You need to slow down. I bought you a holiday to Bali. You'll be in a spa, you'll get a massage every day. Please, don't go back to work, Mom." I was working in America at the time at the University of New Mexico, lecturing in film. And she was already here in Melbourne, so I stopped to see her on my way back to work. She bought me a kaftan, as you can see, and it had a giant butterfly on the front. And she said, "Mama, just because you're 50 doesn't mean you're technically 50. You're only 7 years old." She says, "Your cells regenerate every 7 years, so I want you to have fun. I want you to be playful." So I wore the dress, and I decided to go to this butterfly park in Ubud, if you know where Bali is, very spiritual place. And I went into the hatching section. You can see those are eggs behind me. And they were giving a demonstration about this mammoth butterfly. It is the most beautiful creature I have ever seen. It's like a bird, it's heavy. And this man was talking about this butterfly. He put it in the palm of my hand. And he said it comes out of its cocoon. It lives for 5 days. It doesn't drink, it doesn't eat. And then it hatches all its eggs and it dies. And as he said that, it jumped onto the top of my head. And I thought it was defecating my hair because I could feel the moisture going in between my braids. And I was screaming, "Take it off, take it off." And this man said, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen this. Keep still. It's hatching its eggs in your hair." He said, "This is a good omen." So I had to keep still until it finished. And then it fell on the floor and it died. The next day, I'm sightseeing in a rice field, and I collapsed with congestive heart failure and almost died in 2017 on the 27th of June. So many miracles have happened since. I had hired a taxi driver for the week. People in Indonesia don't get paid very well. If they don't own the car, I always pay a little extra. And I said to this man, "If you pick me up every day, I'll give you an extra $20 a day." So we're walking together in this rice field. I woke up 5 days later in intensive care. And there was my angel, this man sitting at the foot of my bed. He did not leave my side in 5 days. He said, "Gertrude, the extra $20 you gave me helped me pay for school fees for my kids for 2 years. He said, for the first time I was able to buy them new shoes, books, and pencils. When I started traveling, I decided the world's children are mine. Wherever I go, whatever country I go to, I'll make a difference. And I went to Indonesia in 2001. I was a keynote speaker at an event, and I found a little orphanage 10 minutes from this hotel. I'd raised $1,000 through my Rotary Club. I went and spent the day with the children, and when I was leaving, the nuns who run the orphanage said to me, Gertrude, we have 3 little girls. They have turned 18, and if we let them go, they'll end up in prostitution. We need help to get them to college. How much does it cost? $500 a year. I said, that's a no-brainer. Went back to New Zealand, did some fundraising, and I sponsored 3 little girls in an orphanage in Bali in 2001. I have a picture on Facebook handing my card to each of the girls saying, please keep in touch with me. I want to know what happens to you. I heard nothing for 7 years. In the 7th year, one of them found me on Facebook. Her name is Victoria. She wrote me the most beautiful letter. She said, Gertrude, you are my African mother. She said, the money that you paid for me to go to university helped me do a computer course because I want to be like you. She said, I've managed to put 2 of my little brothers through university because of that gift. If you ever come back to Indonesia, you need to know you have a daughter here. So I have hundreds of these daughters scattered around the world. And the day before I collapsed, I went and had lunch with her. And the taxi driver remembered her workplace, and he went back to her. So because of traffic, my taxi driver wasn't coming to the front of the hotel. He had to pick me up 3 streets away. He just knew my name was Gertrude. I didn't have my passport. I didn't have any ID on me. But because he remembered Victoria, he went and told her what happened. I had taken the kids to Indonesia. They connected to her on Facebook. And that one random act of kindness 21 years ago reconnected me with my kids. I sometimes think I could have had a pauper's burial in Indonesia because nobody knew who I was. My kids would never have known what happened. My grandmother used to say that this universe is like a bank. You have to keep depositing good deeds. She said they come back tenfold, not from the person you help, but in very unexpected ways. And that has been the story of my life. Just a series of one little miracle after another. So I believe, that's a better picture of me smiling, with a butterfly on my head. I believe that the old me died in that rice field in Indonesia. Something happened to me. I came back with gifts, intuitive gifts and knowings that I haven't really been able to articulate. I now have the ability to feel death. I went to Zimbabwe in 2018 to visit my parents. My mother was very ill at the time. I was there for 5 weeks, and on the day that we were leaving, I could feel death in the house, is how I said it. I was getting goosebumps, just a sense of foreboding. And I said to my husband, you go back, because I just remarried. You go back to New Zealand, I'm going to stay. I think my mother's going to die. He came back to New Zealand. 10 days later, my mother got very, very ill. I rushed her to hospital. It was a Sunday morning. Dad had gone to church. And I called my father. I said, Dad, please come. He said, I'm on my way. As my mother's being wheeled into the emergency, my cell phone rings. There's a woman screaming on my father's phone. Whose phone is this? Whose phone is this? There's a man here who's collapsed. And my dad died on the way to the hospital. We buried my father. I stayed on for 4 months to help Mom get better. She got to a point where she could stand, she could wash in the shower. And I came back to New Zealand hoping to go back in November. My dad died in June. And when Mom got better, I was walking her to the gate every day and back. Our driveway is quite long. And every step she took, I celebrated by taking pictures. And when she was in a good mood and she felt like herself, I took short little videos of her joking and laughing and not knowing that it was documenting the last days of my mom. COVID happens. I couldn't go back. On the 29th of March, 2020, we first lost my mother-in-law in Poland. My husband is Polish. She had a heart attack one morning. His brother called. We are on Zoom. He's trying to resuscitate his dad, his mom. 3 weeks later, my mother died in Zimbabwe. I haven't even gone to see her grave yet. 2 weeks later, my daughter had a miscarriage. 2020 was a difficult year. My mental health suffered. Day of my mom's funeral, I wanted to slash my wrists. I'm not going to lie to you. I was not in a good place. And I remembered a ritual. In Zimbabwe, if you lose someone close, you shave off all your hair as a sign that you're in mourning. And I did that, and I felt some relief. My brother Zoomed us in. I have a sister in Sydney, a brother in Edmonton, Canada. I'm in New Zealand, so we're scattered all over the world. And we watched my mom's funeral. And my sister came online. She took one look at me and she started laughing hysterically. I'm like, Patricia, why are you laughing? It's mom's funeral. She said to me, Gertrude, have you looked at yourself in the mirror? I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, you look so much like mom. It's like a reincarnation. And I did look like my mother. People used to think we were sisters. She had me when she was 18. And you fast track, it's now November. I'm still mentally not okay. I've stopped working. I am just in a cave emotionally. And then I had a dream. And in this dream, I'm brushing my teeth. I spit into the sink and I look up into the mirror. And the reflection looking back at me isn't me, but it's my mom. And she's laughing the same way my sister laughed on the day of her funeral. And she was vibrant and healthy. And she said, do you see, baby? Do you see what I did? I made you look like me so that you remember I haven't gone anywhere. She said, I am in you. I am with you. But you need to get up and do your work. She said, so long as you're 6 feet above the ground, your job is not done. And I snapped out of a state of depression and I went back to work and I started supporting my women all over the world. I then came to Australia because my daughter got pregnant soon after she lost the first pregnancy. And I came in June last year. And when I came, I was just supposed to be here for 3 months. I wanted to experience my grandson while he was in utero. I wanted to touch that stomach and feel him move. Baby was due in July. But the day that I landed in Australia, the lockdown happened. I could not go back to New Zealand for 7 months. And it has been the most amazing time of my life. My little grandson is now 11 months old. He is the most amazing human being. I was saying to my daughter last weekend, if he ever has to write an essay of what his life purpose is, he chose to come and heal his grandmother's heart. The first day I held this baby, he came into this world with an energy I cannot describe, but an energy that filled every hole. I can't go back to New Zealand now. So Australia is now home for me. I have now come to build a edutech company in Australia. It's called the Diversity Connector, and it is an application that builds a bridge between women in developing countries and those in the first world. We'll play the next video and we'll talk a little bit about COVID. It's just 3 minutes.
Imagine for a moment if we could solve the world's problems like our blood heals wounds. My name is Gertrude Maciej-Kanitsky, and my idea worth spreading is an African philosophy that is close to my heart. Ubuntu ngamuntu ngabantu is the spiritual foundation of most African societies. It articulates the condition of being human. It emphasizes on a lifestyle of radical connection to others as a solution to the world's problems. In 2017, I collapsed of congestive heart failure in a rice field in Bali, Indonesia. I remember my angiogram and watching the dye rushing through my veins on the monitor in front of me. And I started having a conversation with my heart, and I said, why? Why are you doing this to me? And my heart answered back ever so gently. And it said, Gertrude, you have done this to me. I pump oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in your body to keep you alive, but you've forgotten to take care of me. As I got this understanding, the procedure stopped, and I was told that my coronary arteries were clear, and the fluid that had built up around my heart could be drained with the diuretic blood pressure medication that I was on. So how does this relate to an African philosophy? Well, the African philosophy explains that the human body is like the cells of one organism called the human race. And the solution to all of humanity's problems is simply for us to remember that we are so intertwined that there is no separation between us. And our perceived differences are only skin deep. When they finished sequencing the human genome, they found that every single human being on this planet is 99.9% the same. So my mission in this lifetime is to simply help people remember that connection, empathy, and compassion are the superpowers that we all possess. And all we need to do is to remember this so we can reconnect and heal. So we are the cells of one organism called humanity. And our survival as a race depends on us reconnecting. So in Ubuntu, there is no you, there is no me, there is only we. Thank you.
So we've come here today to talk about peace. Peace does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of all of this and still find a calmness in your own heart. Peace. Peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is, rather than as you think it should be. Another quote about peace: don't rush anything. When the time is right, it happens. I told you I was on a quest and on a journey to educate Africa's kids. We're now after the quotes. The slide with Oprah. And I look for role models in everything I do. Keep going. And the next one. So I looked to Oprah. I was watching the Oprah show one day, and she had this woman. Dr. Tererai Trent is from Zimbabwe. She was married off at the age of 11. By the time she was 18, she had 5 children, uneducated in a very poor part of Zimbabwe. And her mother told her she had potential, that the situation they were in wasn't the rest of her life. Her mother told her to write down her dream and bury it. So she wrote that she wanted to go to university, she wanted to go to school. And she put it in a small can and buried it in her village. Then a woman came from the United States. It was a humanitarian mission. She had a group of women together talking about the possibilities of people going to the US to get an education. And she connected with this woman and she ended up in the United States. She now has a statue in New York dedicated to her because she is an activist who talks about education, breaking poverty in Africa. Oprah helped her build a school, or several schools in Zimbabwe. And so I started just watching while she was doing it, what she was doing online. I then connected with her on LinkedIn. And last year when I was here, I got a donation for my foundation anonymously from the US. Somebody donated $5,000. And Dr. Trent had just posted on LinkedIn that she was trying to raise $100,000 to bring a group of girls to the US to go to university. So I thought this money just came, I wasn't expecting it, let me pass it on, and I donated $1,000 towards her cause. She then sent me a personal email saying, Gertrude, we need to talk. We came on a Zoom call. She said, do you know, of all of my years of fundraising for children in Zimbabwe, you are the first Zimbabwean woman who has done this. I want to get to know who you are, what you're doing. And I told her that I've been following you for years. You are an inspiration for me. What you are doing, I'm doing in my community and in my village. Then she invited me to co-author a book. Elizabeth Gilbert has written the foreword for this book. They were supposed to come out at the end of June. So if anybody would like a copy, please give me your name, numbers, and emails. And the funds that are coming out of this book are going towards educating girls. She's creating a fund. So that's what the book looks like. It's called The Sacred Promise. And I had to write a chapter of my sacred promise. And what I vowed to do when I left Africa is to go back. Is to go back and help in education, because I believe that education is the key that breaks the cycle of poverty. And we can take Africa on a quantum leap into the 22nd century if we educate the children. Africa has got the youngest population in the world. 60% of Africans are under the age of 30. So imagine the potential that's there. So Dr. Tererai Trent, I am here today launching The Sacred Promise in Melbourne, Australia. Thank you for picking me. Thank you for seeing my potential and giving me the privilege to do this with you. So the last slide has got a QR code. You can go onto my website and order a copy. So if you've got a phone, just take a picture. And remember, when you are buying this book, buy one for yourself. Buy one for someone you love. Buy one for someone who needs inspiring. My mission is to raise $1 million, so I have to sell 30,000 copies of this book. Please spread the word, share this QR code with friends. It's going to be a great Christmas gift as well for your Christmas stockings. So I'll end my presentation with a few little take-homes to help you remember that peace begins with you and how to remain peaceful in yourself. 10 habits to protect your peace and energy. Let go of the things that you cannot control. Avoid comparing yourself to others. Keep your faith larger than your fear. Fear holds us back. Develop an attitude of gratitude. What I do every morning when I wake up, I have pictures of my kids. and I look at their beautiful faces. And I go into that state of, I am so lucky. One, to be alive, and two, to have these three amazing human beings who love me with all my warts, my lumps, my bumps, and now this gorgeous little grandson. So gratitude is a very good place to go back to remember peace. Don't be afraid to spend time alone, because it's in those quiet moments that spirit works. It's when you are peaceful in meditation or in prayer that the energy works through you so you can make a difference in the world. Avoid spaces that don't feel right. You know, every space has an energy to it. The way I found this space, my daughter bought a house in Sunbury, so she's moved far away from me. I'm living in Glen Iris. And because of my heart failure, I need to walk every day. I need to maintain my weight. And somebody told me that they were looking for someone to build a herb garden. So if you haven't seen the little herb garden in the corner before you leave, please check it out. And I thought I could walk every day. I miss my house. I'm living in an apartment. I'll come and build this little herb garden and hang out with people. And this has been the best thing I have ever done. This home, this house, this building, the people in it have become family to me. So I'm here frequently to water my plants and watch them grow, but avoid those places that do not feel right. Just trust your intuition. Speak kindly to yourself and others. We are our worst critics. That little voice that runs in your head saying you're stupid. Who do you think you are? You couldn't do this. When you hear the voice coming, remember what it is. It's your ego trying to protect you. Tell it, thank you. I know you're trying to protect me, but I'm okay. A lot of times we pull ourselves back because of that voice. We say things that you would never say to your best friend. So when that voice comes and it's telling you all these negative things, ask yourself, would I say this to a friend? If the answer is no, don't believe it. Avoid people who drain your energy. They say that you are a sum total of the people you spend the most time with. And it can be family, it can be friends. I now surround myself with people who energize me and lift up my spirit. So the company you keep is important. Pay attention to your triggers. What are those things that upset you and why? When you become aware of them, you can pull yourself back and just observe it and not get sucked into it. I'll tell you an incident that happened yesterday. I bought an Apple computer. I've been working on PC. I hate them. I hate Apple. It's so different from a PC. And my husband said to me, it's the best thing to do. So I listened. I bought this damn computer and I've been struggling with it. So I went to Chadstone, to the Apple store. And when I walked in, a young Chinese boy, Asian looking, came to serve me. And I said, I need help. Can somebody just sit down with me for 10 minutes so I can learn how to use this computer? First thing he said to me is, your request is too vague. We don't have anyone in the shop who can help you. I said, what do you mean? This is an Apple store. He said, no, there's nobody here and you need to make an appointment. And I said, look, I know you can walk into an Apple store and get help. So call your manager. I'm not going anywhere. He went and got his manager. His manager apologized to me, sat down with me for 20 minutes, showed me the few things I needed to do. I know how to use a computer. I'm a tech specialist. I've used computers my whole life, but not Apple. And before I was leaving, I said to him, you know, this is a teaching opportunity for that young man. Do you mind if he comes so I can explain to him how he made me feel? So he never does this to anybody else. And his manager said to me, this is not a racist thing. You have misunderstood what happened. Now, I have lived and worked in apartheid South Africa. I know racism when I see it. So I had it done twice. I reacted in a way I shouldn't have because I broke down and I started crying in this shop. I was so angry. Just the way I look, I am judged. Somebody who's ignorant, stupid, who doesn't know anything about computers. My trigger is I have lived with racists my whole life. I grew up in Rhodesia, in a country where black people had to work on one side of the street. I was the only black child in every single school I went to. The only black woman in every organization I've worked in. So I have triggers, and I reacted the wrong way. But what I think I did manage to do is to reflect back to them that what they did was wrong. And I am going to write a letter to that Apple store to share my experience so that it doesn't happen to anybody else. Beware of your thoughts. The human mind is an amazing thing. It can work for you or it can work against you. So be conscious of where your thoughts are taking you and try and find peace. Last slide. In the end, there are only 3 things that really matter. How much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my story.